This question is from Pure Book 1, exercise 6F, question 5. And it's asking us to find the equation for a circle. They've given us 3 points, and they've told us that they lie on the circumference of the circle. 2 points will define a line, 3 points define a circle. Even if the points lie in a straight line, it still defines a circle, but the center will be at infinity. Let's start by going on to GeoGebra just to see what the circle will look like. So first I'm going to type in the points. And now I'm going to use the circle tool to actually draw the circle. So I'm going to choose circle through 3 points, click on that, and then I'm just going to choose the 3 points. Okay, and now I can see what my answer is going to be. So that's what I'm aiming for, and let's see if we can work it out algebraically. The first thing to do is to just write down the standard equation of a circle, and then what we're going to do is substitute in for those points. Remember, those points are going to be x and y. x1, y1 and r are all constants, and we're going to be trying to work those out from the information we've been given. Because we've been given 3 points, that does mean that we're going to get 3 equations. We have 3 unknowns, therefore we will be able to actually determine what the constants are. So substituting in, we get these 3 equations, and we simply multiply them out like this. I haven't simplified at this point, I've just multiplied out. And I've numbered the equations because I know I'm going to be using them later. Remember, you need to be explaining to the examiner what you are doing, and therefore make it easy for them to actually follow what you're doing so that you will receive your method marks. I'm going to start by eliminating all the squared terms. Fortunately, that's quite easy because, as you can see, they're all exactly the same. So I can choose any 2 of those equations and just use subtraction. It's much better than using a substitution in this case. Just using elimination will work very well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll just use, in this case, 1 and 2. So now, as you can see, I've got an equation just in x1 and y1. So I'm just going to simplify that first. And now I'm going to repeat that with equations 2 and 3. Okay, because I'm going to be using those 2 equations, I've numbered those 2 as well, because now I'm going to just treat them as standard simultaneous equations and just eliminate, in this case, x is the obvious one to eliminate. So now I've found that y1 is -4, and I can substitute that back into either one of those equations to find x1. I now have x1 and y1, and I just substitute those back into one of the original equations that I wrote down in order to find r. So notice that I've substituted into the original one, which I didn't actually number, but it's the one that I calculated 2 from. So I've just said into 2. But notice that you should write it out clearly with the substitutions shown before you actually do the calculations, because again, if you make an error, then you will at least get your method mark. Do notice also that I'm using -4 in brackets. You don't have to do that, but just want to make it very clear, when you're working with negative numbers, you must be very careful about making sure you don't get the sign wrong. And don't forget to check that that actually does work. So you may have made an error somewhere along the line. You will get numbers coming out. If you're lucky and you've made a mistake, then the numbers will obviously seem weird, like r² is negative or something like that. But you can't hope always that will happen. So you should always be checking before you move on. So let's have a little look. We've used 2 to calculate the value of r², so we're going to use a different one. I'll use equation 1. Great, so that does give me 50 for r² as well. Do notice again that I've typed it in exactly as I wrote it out in the first place. That's just to make sure that I don't make any silly mistakes when I'm actually checking it. That does happen. If it doesn't come out correctly, then best thing to do first is to check that you have correctly typed it in. If it is wrong and you checked it again, you might want to check it against the third one. Now, the next thing to do is go back to the question and just check that the question has been answered properly. So we look at the question, we see it says find an equation for the circle. I haven't actually done that. I found the values, but I haven't written it down. That would lose me an A mark if I forgot to do that. Always a very good idea to check what the question did actually ask you, because you may have done quite a lot of work and then at the end you don't actually write down the thing that you're originally intending to find. So this is my final answer. Notice that I have made it very clear what I'm writing down as well, just to make sure the examiner will give me my marks.